Hi there, I'm Ruchi Chopra, a lead product manager at Microsoft, and we're going to talk about Microsoft Information Protection. What we're going to talk about today is the challenge that organizations are dealing with in finding and protecting their sensitive data, and how Microsoft Information Protection offers a unique solution to that challenge. So it goes without saying that all organizations today are dealing with sensitive data, and it's a top priority for them to protect that data. But it's easier said than done. The problem is that this data is really hard to identify. It's really hard to locate. And it's really hard to know how users are interacting with it, how they're sharing it. No wonder then that more than 80% of corporate data is dark. And that's what leads to more than 88% of organizations saying that they just don't have the confidence to protect their crown jewels. And this problem is exacerbated by the fact that users these days are, working from home, working remotely from their own non-corporate managed devices in non-corporate locations. However, Microsoft Information Protection offers a solution that helps with all of these challenges. And here's how our solution is so unique. So what you're seeing in that first row is the admin experiences. From the admin's perspective, Microsoft Information Protection offers a single console that helps you create policies, manage policies, monitor protection policies, no matter where that data lives, whether it's living in SharePoint or OneDrive or users' devices, anywhere, even non-Microsoft locations. It's a single place. It's called the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. And you create your policies and you reuse your policies and you monitor your policies in that one console. Secondly, the bedrock of our solution is a really rich and intelligent and flexible and customizable classification platform. What this is a set of mechanisms ranging from regular expressions to keyword dictionaries to machine learning that help you identify sensitive data in your organization. Now, we at Microsoft offer a number of built-in classifiers. So each of these mechanisms, we call them classifiers. And we have more than 100 built-in regular expression-based classifiers. We have a number of machine learning models that we just offer out of the box. But we don't stop there because we know that for a solution to really work across a range of organizations need to be able to customize it. And so we offer you the capabilities to make it truly your own. Thirdly, the solution is not limited to Microsoft, the Microsoft ecosystem. Through our SDK and through our CASB, we extend this protection across non-Microsoft products as well. And we'll see a little bit more about that in subsequent slides. Going down to the second row, the end user's experience. So firstly, the capabilities are not a bolt-on. They are natively built into the apps that your users are already using. Office, Windows, Edge. There is no add-in for the admin to manage, to keep up to date. And another benefit is that the experience is coherent across all of these surfaces. And lastly, we totally recognize that for a protection capability to be successful, it really needs to go hand in hand with user productivity instead of impeding it. So we offer the flexibility to admins to customize how much they want to be able to rely on user judgment versus where they want to actually more strictly enforce policy. So I talked about our solution being comprehensive. Let's take a closer look, starting with on-premises. So we have a scanner that will scan your on-premises repositories, file repositories, and identify sensitive data. We have coverage across Office apps, across platforms, Windows, Mac, mobile, web clients. We have coverage for SharePoint sites, Microsoft 365 groups, Teams, Exchange, and also, as I was saying, our third-party non-Microsoft clouds and SaaS apps through our CASB, the Microsoft Cloud App Security. So our solution is really organized around 3 core sets of capabilities. The first one is know your data. That deals with the problem of dark data that we were talking about in the beginning of this presentation and gives you out of the box insights, which means you don't have to configure any policy in order to be able to see these insights. And these insights deal with helping you understand what kind of sensitive data you have in your organization, where it lives, and what users are doing with it. Once you have that understanding of your sensitive data, you are then better equipped to create the right set of policies. And that's the second area of focus that we have, protect your data. And that helps you create the right set of policies to protect those crown jewels. And the way you do it is by creating labels and applying labels on your sensitive data, accompanied by encryption, which protects the data from unauthorized access, and watermarking, which builds awareness about sensitive data amongst end users. And once you've got those policies, the third thing is preventing data loss. And we'll cover that in greater detail in part 2. But that essentially covers the protecting your sensitive data from being leaked outside your organization or from unauthorized external access. And we're going to look at how all of these come together in a walkthrough. We'll start with know your data. This is an admin at Contoso who's logged in. This is the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center that you're looking at. And they have clicked in on the data classification tab, which is right here. Within the data classification tab, they have clicked into sensitive information types. What this is those classifiers that I was talking about. Some of them, as you can see, are published by Microsoft. Those are the built-in ones. Some of them have been customized and published by Contoso for their own use. One of those, the highlighted one, is Project Obsidian. So what the admin has done is they've created their own mechanism for identifying sensitive information that's relevant to a particular project in the organization called Project Obsidian. This could be based on regular expressions, keyword dictionaries, machine learning, and so forth. Now that they have that capability, that classifier that's called Project Obsidian, the next thing they're going to want to know is what are those files in the organization that actually are relevant to that project. So now they're going to click into the Content Explorer tab, and this is what it looks like. And over here, they haven't configured any policy, no config, other than just creating that classifier, just defining the rules. That's all they've done. And they are going to see the actual files that match that set of rules, that Project Obsidian classifier right here. So they've clicked in on the left on the Project Obsidian classifier. And what you're seeing on the right is the number of files that match that classifier in each of these locations: Exchange, SharePoint Online, OneDrive, and Teams. They can further click in and navigate to specific files. And we're going to look at what happens when they navigate within SharePoint. Now they're looking at the list of files that we found that matched Project Obsidian. And if they have the right set of permissions, they can even get a peep into the file. They can actually see the file right here. That then helps them determine whether that classifier they built is catching the right set of documents. So now that they've got this classifier, the next thing they're going to want to do is protect all those files that they just saw. And we're going to see how we allow that protection to be done at scale. So the first thing they're going to do is create a label. What they will want to do is apply a label to each of those files that we just looked at. So, and that label is going to be called highly confidential. So they clicked on create a label, and now they're going to go through the process of creating a label and configuring the set of protections that that label should carry with it. So they've given it the name, created a description for users to be aware of the use of this label. And they've configured, encryption and content marking and other protections that go with that label. Now they're going to want to create a policy that automatically applies that label to all of the files that match Project Obsidian. So now they're going to click on Create Policy in the Auto Labeling tab in Information Protection. And when they create that policy, they're going to select Custom Policy because they want to specify their own criteria, give the policy a name, select the locations that they want that policy to apply to. And now they're going to define the rule for that policy. And the rule is documents that match Project Obsidian. And the outcome should be apply the highly confidential label that they just created. Now that they've done that, before they even deploy the policy, they have the option to run it in simulation mode to just see, get a what if analysis. If they rolled out the policy, what are the files that would be impacted? So they roll this out, they review it, and now the policy is running in simulation mode, and they get a lot of information about the impact of the policy, including which files would be impacted. And again, they can see the preview of the files. So now they can go back and tweak the policy if needed, or they can go ahead and publish it if they're comfortable. And now that the policy is published, this is the end user's view. So we're looking at a SharePoint library, and you see there the Project Obsidian spec, which is a document that matches the policy, has been given the highly confidential label, and that's visible right there in SharePoint. So that builds awareness with the user as well. Now the user opens that file up in Word, and again, Word has that yellow bar you see on top that indicates that that label has been applied to that file. Now that the policy has been rolled out, it is in effect. The admin can then also get insights into all activity that's happening with files that have that highly confidential label. And that's what you're seeing here. So now you saw an end-to-end view of an admin being able to get insight into the kind of sensitive data they have and being able to create the right set of controls, the right policy to be able to protect that data at scale and with confidence. And you saw the end user's experience as well. Let's take a look at some other end user experiences that we also offer with Microsoft Information Protection. So you may want to give your users the option, the flexibility to label their documents themselves. In those cases, Microsoft also offers the option to manually label files, and this is available in Office across all platforms. So you're seeing here the file in Rich Client, in Mobile Client, and in the Web Client. All three, and it looks coherent, it looks similar across the board. Not only that, we also have Power BI that supports labels. What you're seeing on the left is a Power BI report that has the highly confidential label on it. And what you're seeing on the right is that same report, when it got exported to Excel, Excel also understood and interpreted that label and inherited that label and shows that label right there to the user. A quick note on extensibility. So, what you saw so far was how Microsoft Information Protection works within the Microsoft ecosystem. Let's take a look at how we make it comprehensive and cover non-Microsoft workloads and locations as well. So we have an SDK that a number of partners, more than 200 partners have used, quite a few notable names over here, in order to make their products aware of Microsoft Information Protection labels. A key example is Adobe. And you can see here that in Adobe Reader, a label that was applied is being displayed. So Adobe Reader understands Microsoft Information Protection labels. Now, there's some of you who may be using the classic Azure Information Protection, and a little bit of guidance for you. The classic Azure Information Protection client, as well as the admin experiences in the Azure portal for Azure Information Protection, are going to be deprecated early next year. What we recommend is to move to Microsoft Information Protection, and here's what it entails. If you're already using Azure Information Protection, move all your existing labels and policies over. You can migrate them. And there's more guidance under that Learn More link. If your users are using Office Pro Plus, then you don't have to do anything for end users. This will just light up for them. If you're not using Office Pro Plus, then we recommend using the unified labeling client. Again, more guidance under that Learn More link. So just to summarize, key benefits of Microsoft Information Protection. Firstly, it's built in. You saw how Office, Power BI, and Edge natively understand Microsoft Information Protection, and there's no need for the admin to deploy any add-ins. Second, it's intelligent and highly customizable. Thirdly, it's unified. The Microsoft 365 Compliance Center is the only place the admin needs to go to manage information protection across all of these locations. And lastly, it's extensible. It's not limited to the Microsoft ecosystem. We have the SDK that allows you to extend it to non-Microsoft apps and services as well. Feel free to pause here. A number of useful resources here for you. And lastly, the team would love to engage with you. We look forward to hearing from you on Yammer. Just follow the link that's included here. Thank you. This session will focus on our data loss prevention solution and specifically how it offers comprehensive coverage while at the same time balancing security with user productivity. I hardly need to belabor the fact that protecting sensitive data is a top priority for organizations today. And the problem is just exacerbated by the fact that we're all in this remote work situation these days. Employees are working from their own devices, non-corporate managed locations, and that has just raised the level of concern that organizations have around data leakage. Now, before I go too deep into our data loss prevention solution, let me just anchor this conversation in the larger context. So our Microsoft Information Protection solution has three core components. This slide is probably familiar to you if you've seen part one, where we covered Know Your Data, which solves the dark data problem, the problem of identifying your sensitive data, determining where it lives and what users are doing with it. And then the second one is Protect Your Data, which is about creating the right sets of policies to classify and label your sensitive data. And that then lends itself to the right sets of protections like encryption and watermarking. And then the third one, which is the focus of this session, is preventing data loss, which deals with preventing the loss of your sensitive data, inadvertent or otherwise, from your organization. Let's dig in a little more. So as I was saying in the beginning, a core focus for us is to have a comprehensive solution. And that's what you're seeing in that bubble on the left, is we completely embrace the fact that for a solution to be effective, for data loss prevention to be effective, it needs to be comprehensive. Customers have told us that they want a single pane of glass. They want to use a single product that protects their data no matter where it lives. And that's exactly aligned with our strategy. So we have coverage for your data, whether it's living in Exchange, in emails, Teams, chats, documents on SharePoint or OneDrive, or even devices, endpoints. And it's not limited to the Microsoft ecosystem. Our coverage goes beyond. Through our Microsoft Cloud App Security solution, we extend our protection coverage to non-Microsoft clouds and apps as well. Now, all of this then comes together in a set of unified and integrated experiences, both for the admin and for the end user. And we're going to take a quick look at what that really means. Firstly, for the admin, you need to get started. You need to have the right set of information to know what kinds of policies to create. And that's where our guided onboarding comes in. Firstly, it's lightweight configuration, cloud native, no on-premises infrastructure to deploy and manage, no agents, just some lightweight configuration in the cloud and you're good to go. And before you've even created your first policy, you're going to start seeing insights come in about, like I was saying earlier, where your sensitive data lives, what kind of sensitive data is in the organization, and what kinds of activities are happening with that sensitive data. That can then inform the right sets of policies, protection policies, to be created. And on to policy creation, we have a single place, the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center, where you will go to manage, to create, to monitor all your protection policies, regardless of what the location is where that data lives. It's also a very rich set of capabilities, a rich set of rules that you can, and conditions and exceptions that you can configure to really create the policies that are absolutely relevant for your context. Next, of course, as I said, our data loss prevention solution is a part of our overarching Microsoft Information Protection solution, and it leverages the same core platform of classification mechanisms, of labels. So, for instance, we've got more than 100 built-in sensitive information types. We've got more than 40 templates that you can just use. An example is GDPR. You don't have to bother with figuring out what it means to identify GDPR data in your organization. We've done that heavy lifting for you, and you can just use it in your policies out of the box. Not just that, of course, you can customize all of these classifiers and really make them your own. And in addition, a lot of organizations, like I was saying, as part of the Protect Your Data pillar, choose to label their documents, their sensitive documents. Once you've labeled documents, those labels then lend themselves to being used in other policies, including data loss prevention policies. And now that you've got your policies in place, the next thing that's going to happen is alerts are going to start flowing in. And as those alerts flow in, no matter where the data lived, no matter where the alert was generated, it's all going to flow into one place where you can view the alerts. You're going to get the right level of detail to be able to triage those alerts, and then you're going to be able to remediate them. And that's not all. We don't limit you to our experience. For users who prefer to use SIMS or some other piece of software where they want to get alerts and where they want to do triage across multiple other sources, we offer rich API support as well. That is on par with what you will see in the experience. Switching over to the end user. For the end user, there is no plugin for the admin to deploy, to manage. The experiences are built into the apps that your users know and love. Office, Windows, Edge. Not just that, the admin has the knobs, the flexibility to determine where they want to rely more on user judgment and in what scenarios they want to enforce policy a little bit more strictly. That's how we draw that balance between security and productivity. And because all of these experiences are natively built in and understood by all of these applications, the experience is coherent across the board and looks and feels the same, leading to a more productive experience for your end users, easier for them to learn the experience and become aware of it. And of course, it's available across all of our platforms consistently. Now, don't take my word for all of this. Does the product really live up to its promise? We're going to take a look through a walkthrough. So here I am in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. This is the admin console where you're going to manage your data loss prevention policy, your information protection policy. The first thing you're going to do is click on data classification, which will tell you about where your sensitive data lives, what kind of sensitive data you have that you need to protect, and what are users doing with it. Once you have that, and we've covered that in more detail in part 1, so I'm not going to go into much detail there, but I am going to show you quickly that you can dig in and actually see a preview of the sensitive files as well if you have the right set of permissions. So in this case, continuing from the scenario we had in part 1, there is a project called Project Obsidian, which is a top secret project for this organization, Contoso. And what the Contoso admin wants to do is create a data loss prevention policy so that Project Obsidian data cannot be shared externally. The first thing, of course, they're going to do is look at all the Project Obsidian data in their organization. So that's what they're doing here. And then they're going to go into data loss prevention and start to create policies to protect that data. So when they click on create a policy, they're going to choose custom policy because it's the set of conditions that they're going to have is custom to this organization. It's about Project Obsidian. They're going to give it a name. They choose to give it the same name, Project Obsidian, give it a description. Now, here's where you're seeing all the locations that the admin can deploy this policy to, and you see the breadth of it. In one place, you can configure policy for Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, devices, and Microsoft Cloud App Security. So within let's just dig into Microsoft Cloud App Security, and you can see the specific applications, and they can choose which applications they want to apply that policy to. And once they've done that, they're going to define the specific settings for each of those locations. And they're going to say, I do not want this data to be shared with users outside my organization. And the condition that they're going to apply is that any file that has the Project Obsidian label on it is under the purview of this policy. So now what are the actions that they want to apply? One, they can configure email notifications that are sent to the users, or in-app policy tips that I was talking about, that each of these apps actually will natively support data loss prevention policy. And they can configure, really go into detail around, what thresholds they want to have before alerts are generated. Not just that, they can customize the content of those policy tips or the alerts that are sent to the user. They can also allow decide whether they want to allow the user to override the policy or not. Again, going back to balancing security and productivity. Now we're going to look at some device or location specific policy conditions. What you're seeing here on the top is for Windows devices, they have all of this flexibility whether to protect whether that data or Project Obsidian data is being uploaded to a cloud service that's not supported or not allowed, copy to clipboard, copy to USB or removable media, copy to a network share, access by unallowed apps, printing. And for each of these, there's the flexibility to say, I just want to audit. I just want to know whether the user did that, or I actually want to block, or I want to block, but allow the override. So that was on devices. Then we were also seeing that this policy applies to third-party apps. For each of the apps that are under the purview of this policy, the admin can configure exactly what level of controls they want to have for Project Obsidian data. At the end, they can choose to test the policy before they actually deploy it. And then they'll review it, make sure that it looks good, and then go ahead and deploy. And now once it's deployed, let's take a look at the experience for the end user. So here you're seeing Teams, again, natively understanding the policy and allowing the user to override. You're seeing in Word, the user attempted to copy some content that was relevant to Project Obsidian. This document is a Project Obsidian document, and you can see that Word blocked that action along with an explanation, which was all configured by the admin. Here you can see in File Explorer that the user was attempting to do a copy, but that was again blocked by Windows. Here you're seeing an attempt to copy into Dropbox, which was again blocked by Edge. And all of this is native. So to summarize, the quantity of sensitive data that you need to manage is only exploding. That problem is further getting exacerbated by our current remote work situation. But there are several options that Microsoft Information Protection offers to help you protect that data. You can label that data, and you can define data loss prevention policies that will protect that data no matter where it lives, whether it's in the cloud, within Microsoft locations or non-Microsoft locations, and on users' devices. And it'll do all of that while offering built-in and integrated experiences to your end users. There's a number of useful links here, a number of resources for you to learn more about this topic. Feel free to pause here. And lastly, the team would love to engage with you, so do find us on Yammer. Thank you.